Ta-da! Hoist our colors high. Hello, hello. These beggars never shall we die. Such a good song.
Oh my god, I love that song. that is an amazing song. Oh my god, I love this. Again, we're talking about movies we love.
We're talking about pirates today.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song is they sing that in the third one.
At World's End.
At World's End. Yeah. Yeah, no.
One of the best scenes.
One of the best scenes of the little kid with the pirates coming.
Yeah.
And he starts singing it. Everyone else starts singing it. Oh, so good.
It's good.
But yeah, no, we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean. One of honestly my childhood franchises.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with it. It came out. The first one came out in 2001.
Yeah.
So that especially talking about the first one. So.
Yeah, I watched this movie for the first time in 2018.
No way.
And it became my entire personality for maybe 4.5 years. I bought a car. It was a black car. I named it the Black Pearl. I got car door projectors of the pirate emblems. The high school I chose to go to that was because their mascot was a marauder. That one's not as true, but.
No way.
But yeah, my high school mascot was a marauder. I have this shirt for the people watching. I have
Curse of the Black Pearl.
I have my Curse of the Black Pearl shirt that I stole from my little brother. Pirates has kind of become my comfort movie. All of my friends associate this movie with me, just on how unnormal I could like this.
2018, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's actually insane because that's right around the time when the last one came out. Dead Men Tell No Tales. Oh wow! I actually didn't know that about you. That's an insane little fact.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh my god. So that's crazy. That's very, very crazy. What high school did you go
to? Jesuit High School in Sacramento, California. Shout out the Marauders.
Okay, that's insane. Okay, well, fair enough. So I grew up with this film, and then obviously Andy has a great love for this film, and. Obviously, I think everyone watching today will probably have seen Pirates of the Caribbean. It is, honestly, it's crazy how it came about. It's a movie based on a theme park ride.
Yeah.
In Disneyland. They don't even really play the original Pirates of the Caribbean song in the first one until the credits, either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how, because before this was Country Bear Jamboree, which was also based off of a ride or attraction at Disney World. And then there was also the Jungle Cruise recently and Haunted Mansion, and none of them could ever capture the same lightning in a bottle as Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Not at all. I think in a lot of ways it's attributed to, obviously we have the modern iterations of Jungle Cruise being shot on the Venture or whatever it's called, that little that whatever it's called in Atlanta, the 3D thing behind you. So Dwayne The Rock Johnson also is not the most charismatic actor.
Shout out Dwayne.
Shout out Dwayne. And then who's actually in WWE Wrestling Mania last night. But,
was he really?
Yeah, he was. And then you also have Haunted Mansion, which again is that modern iteration of something that it doesn't capture that same magic because Pirates feels so lived in and so well casted at the same time. Yeah,
and I think what I noticed when really studying this film is just how well the script is.
First one is immaculate.
There isn't a scene that's... Every single scene and every single piece of dialogue is doing at least 2 things at once.
Yeah.
Every single thing. This entire movie is set up, payoff, set up, payoff.
Yes.
And it's beautiful, and it's perfect.
And one of the best things about it, and that we kind of teased at the beginning, is its score. The score is, again... we're going to go all in a circle of this one, praising this film, because the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie is this insane lightning in a bottle story. It's a film that shouldn't succeed. It shouldn't succeed by any means. Mm-hmm. It has Johnny Depp, who's a pretty A-list actor, and actually he's not pretty. He's an A-list actor, and then everyone else at the time, maybe besides Orlando Bloom, B-list actors that just exist. Zoe Saldana's breakout
This was
role,
her first,
her first film. Orlando Bloom's 4th film, if you don't include.
This was just after Lord of the Rings.
Literally the week after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you all these people. Keira Knightley is like only like 4 or 5 films after being a child actress, but still this is
she was like 17 when this movie was filming.
It's like her only big role besides was Star Wars Episode 1, kind of thing like that, as a side character.
Yeah.
And so it's this crazy little fact that this insane movie came out of nowhere with an amazing score, an amazing premise about this dumb idea that it's a ride on Disney.
Yeah.
And it's so well done because you're right. You say the script, and it's because the script is so excellently crafted. You have this really amazing world built, set, and created thing in the Caribbean of like a British colonization of the Caribbean, and all of a sudden they're plagued by pirates. And then you think that it could be like a more realistic, in a lot of ways. If you don't know pirates and you watch this for the first time, you would think this is like a very necessarily not realistic, but like you'd be like, oh, it's just a real life thing. And then as soon as they turn into skeletons, you're like, oh, there's a little bit of fantasy in this too.
Yeah,
and it's so cool.
What's nice is the fantasy fits. You know, like
so well.
Like I kind of relate it to Indiana Jones in the way where it's like Indiana Jones has very fantasy elements in it, but then you throw aliens in and it throws everything off. That's why Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was so
bad.
Not it is because the fantasy did not fit Indiana Jones.
Or time travel in the one. Time Dial of Destiny.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit, no.
Whereas the fantasy elements in at least the first Pirates of the Caribbean works great.
And then obviously Davy Jones too
absolutely.
He was one of the best villains I think that is seen in the 2000s era.
Yeah.
And also best CGI you've seen. Also, one thing about this film is it was made in 2001 or 2002, and its CGI holds up hecka good.
Yeah, I saw this movie in theaters last summer with my best friend Brayden, and just seeing it on the big screen, I walked in expecting, because I always watch this on my laptop or something, you know, but watching it on the big screen, the CG looks so good, like convincingly perfect, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
it's insane.
It's crazy. So when you first reached out, that was such an iconic line with Barbossa and over Keira Knightley's character of Elizabeth Swann, where he goes like, she just says, "I don't believe in ghost stories."
Oh, you better, Missy.
Missy.
You're in one,
and it's so good.
Ah!
Yeah, it's like a title drop, and you're like, man. That is entertaining. Like,
that's
good. Excellently written.
It's good.
The thing is, the funniest thing is, he's a villain, but the entire film, you really don't know who the villain is. There's so many like jump switches and back and forth. Because all he wants is to feel. And then he initially just takes like her blood, just scrapes her hand.
Yeah.
And like you realize, oh, maybe he's not the villain. Maybe it's the British colonization that's the villain. Maybe it's actually Jack. It's Jack Sparrow. Maybe he's the villain. And you just can't predict it. Everything is going switched ways and everything like that. And you're just watching, and you're like, man, this movie's so good.
It's so good. I love how it doesn't have like a villain. You know, like Barbossa is set up as a traditional villain, but really he has, aside from murdering a bunch of people, like that wasn't that cool. But everything else, he was just like, oh yeah, I just want to feel again. You know.
Yeah.
There's conflict. There's a ton of conflict, but there's no central villain. And I think that can be a really hard thing to balance, but
absolutely.
The script is just perfect.
And the thing is, so this is one of those films that a lot of people have already seen when we talk about our podcast, and anyone that's listening live on air right now.
Shout out,
girlfriend Jordan. I know you're listening to this.
Shout out, Jordan.
Who's on a podcast episode previously? Watch it on 171 on YouTube.
It's true.
But what I was saying is like this film is one of those movies that almost everyone I know has seen it, and everyone I know loves it. And it's like obviously like the Goonies we talked about last week, or like movies we said in the past. Most people have like seen them in their eyes, but sometimes they just really haven't, and we talk about it in a way that like makes you want to go watch it or makes you want to see it.
Yeah.
But this one, it's like everyone I know loves this movie. Everyone I know has seen this. I've yet to meet someone that has not seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and not love them. Obviously, people can dislike the fourth one or fifth one.
Yeah,
but I've seen people that have dramatically different opinions. What's their the favorite of the first three?
Yeah.
Like, my favorite's the first one.
Yeah.
My roommate Sam's favorite is Dead Man. Not Dead Man.
That would be crazy.
No. It's the the Curse of Black Pearl. It's the oh my god. It's the what's the third one? I can't remember the name of it.
The third one?
The third one. What's the name of it?
Is that Stranger Tides?
On Stranger Tides.
Yeah.
Loves that one. and like everything in this film was great. Also, one thing again about this film is there are so many perfect things and so many amazing things, and one other thing that gets underappreciated in Hollywood in general: stunts and choreography.
Yeah. What I have a whole segment on here about it. I wrote down in my notes. I said the action. One of my biggest pet peeves is in this. Let's use Star Wars for an example, right? The Star Wars, especially Episode 3, when Obi-Wan and Anakin fight. If you look at the script online, the script just says they fight. And it says they fight over and over because George Lucas just didn't write a scene, right?
Yeah.
There is not a single they fight moment in here. When Will first meets Jack and they're pacing back and forth in the blacksmith shop, all that is character development and showing you who these characters are. And then also the ship scene with the ship battle at the end. There is no they fight. There is actual scenes written, and it's perfect.
Yeah, and that's God, because you're right. That first scene you see in the very, very beginning, you see Jack Sparrow fighting William Turner.
It's so good.
It's so good. And the reason it's so good is you clearly tell that William understands swordsmanship. He understands everything about being a swordsman. Is because he became a swordsman. Because that's how he needed to make his trade.
I practiced for 3 hours a day.
Yeah. And then you have Jack, who plays dirty. And it's just funny, because he's a pirate. He's like, you shouldn't have picked a fight with a pirate. And he's like, that was unfair.
You cheated.
You cheated.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like, I'm a pirate. Of course.
Pirate. Yeah.
It's just like that idea of them going back and forth just creates this character. And then the thing that's fun about it is all of a sudden now they're fighting on wood beaming on the roof, and like on the ceiling, and then like at the end when Jack Sparrow finally gets taken down, the person that gets all the credit is that same person that's getting all the credit for Will's swords, and it's just like the idea that these two characters get introduced to each other in the most unimaginable way, where they're at conflict. And, like, Will's trying to defend Elizabeth's honor, and Jack's just trying to escape. And it's just that idea, and then all of a sudden they become unlikely heroes where they escape together, or Will helps Jack escape.
Yeah, there's another great setup in that is when he's like, you cheated, and then Jack's like, pirate, because he's holding a gun at their swords fight. And Jack's like, move, please move. This shot is not meant for you.
Yeah.
I've been practicing my British accent, in case you can't tell. But that's just a good setup, because it doesn't say anything. It's like, oh my gosh, what is the shot for? You know, and we don't find out until later in the movie. Then another one is when Norrington's like a compass that doesn't point north.
You don't even find out in this movie.
You don't find out in the second movie what that is, you know, and it's so good. I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean did to pirate movies what Lord of the Rings did to fantasy movies.
Absolutely. And it's that lightning in a bottle that actually was really hard to recapture, though.
Oh, yeah. There's, like, how many good pirate movies can you think of, right? Like, before this movie came out, there was Muppet Treasure Island, the other there was, like, the 4 Treasure Island movies, Treasure Planet.
Maybe the Goonies be considered a pirate movie.
Goonies, they were dead. Cutthroat Island. Like pirates were not cool before this movie, you know?
Because then you had, what was that one movie that we talked about right before last week? It's Treasure, not Treasure,
Cutthroat Island.
Cutthroat Island, that's what you said, yeah. I've seen it, it's not that good.
It's not good.
It's not good, and it's just, pirates aren't cool.
Yeah.
They just aren't cool at that point, and then Jack Sparrow comes out, and he flips a coin on this, like, what the idea of pirates. Barbossa, absolutely
perfect.
He's a pirate through and through.
Perfect.
And then Jack Sparrow flips the idea of what a pirate is, specifically.
Yeah.
It's this idea that, like, it's whimsical, it's funny, it's charming, stupid, but also really intelligent, very good at what he does, but also very bad, lucky and also unlucky at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a character that is so layered and deep, and in many ways... I dressed up as Jack Sparrow as a kid. He was
absolutely.
He was a hero of mine as a kid. He's like one of my favorite fantasy characters ever.
Yeah,
I loved him. And you talk about that because then now we look back nowadays, what pirate movies have come out that since Pirates that have been good? Mm-hmm. You can't really think of it. Yeah, it's a lightning in a bottle.
Pirate culture is very, very funny because if you I'm a diehard pirate fan through and through of everything pirate, right? Like I love Muppet Treasure Island, Treasure Planet, this. But I have 3 things to attach onto. Maybe Assassin's Creed, Black Flag.
Black Flag.
There's no other good pirate things to really like get the hype of it.
And like look at the Lord of the Rings in the same way, like that fantasy aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's been hard to recapture. They tried making Aragon. They tried making
the Hobbit trilogy.
The Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
And like what like the most common thing that if you don't count science fiction, because that's like very much in a line of Star Wars. Like since then, it's been like fantasy has been almost dwindled down to superhero films, and it's like that kind of idea where like that also is almost lightning in a bottle. I'm sure there have been some great fantasy films since then, but more so than you can say for pirate films. But it's just like this idea that it was almost perfected at the same time.
Yeah, it's perfect. I think my favorite thing is I've watched this movie like maybe this is not a joke or an exaggeration of any kind. Maybe 20 times in the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
like
I'm not gonna lie to you. That's not an exaggeration. I mean, Pirates is that. I mean, I can say that I've probably seen it about 10 times, maybe 12 times in the past 4 or 5 years.
I watch it probably quarterly. You know,
yeah, exactly. Well, it's the thing that's a comfort movie. It's like it's Pirates of the Curse of the Black Pearl exists in the sense that it's just like so easy to watch and so entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, and I like how I can pick up on more and more aspects every time I watch it, because each scene is doing two things at once. My first watch through, I didn't pick up on the fact that, Will's upset that his master's getting all the credit, because that is such an unspoken facial expression, blink and you'll miss it moment.
Yeah.
Right? One of my favorite things that I picked up on, a while ago, but I think it's really fun, is I always hear discourse of people being like, why didn't the necklace call out to the Black Pearl earlier? And I'm like, well, it's actually kind of simple, right? Like, it was in it was in the drawer.
Yep.
She put it on because she had a dream about Will, and then her father barges in, so she has to hide it, and then the rest of the day moves on, and she just doesn't have a chance to take the necklace off, and it falls in the water and calls for it, you know? So it's, everything is doing two things at once, and this movie is sort of timeless in that way, where you can watch it and pick up something new each and every time you watch it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's like, it's just something that it is so timeless. It's something that, like, I know is like one of those movies. Anything, almost every movie we've talked about here on this podcast is something I want to show my kid, and that's where movies are timeless. It's like there's something so fantastical about pirates in the sense that I wanted to be a pirate when I was a little kid. It sets you in that world. And I can't believe you watched this when you were, 16?
I watched it at, I think, the perfect time for me.
Okay.
You know, I can't explain how much of a, firm grip this movie holds on my friend group. Because I live in California, and there's a lake by our house. And my dad owns a boat. And so me, my friend Braden, my friend Ty, Mikey, Joe, we would be pirates for the afternoon, 16 years old, zipping around a lake, just
that's genuinely so cool.
Blasting Hans Zimmer's soundtrack as loud as the speakers will go as we're zipping around the lake at sunset, and it is some of the best memories I've ever had in my life is just doing that. And even not when we're on a boat, sometimes we're in a car just blasting it, and
that's a really cool memory, man.
It's
Funny enough, is Pirates was that my piano teacher Rebecca, she actually went to the U. Funny enough,
shout out Rebecca.
Yeah, shout out Rebecca. The first real non-classical piece I learned that I chose was Pirates, and it's so ingrained into my brain as a piano player that it's like if I ever see a random piano in public, it's like the first thing I'll play.
Really?
I'm like, and I'll do the whole the starting the D chord, D notes and just go and then just dun, 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 and then there's this funny story. I went to Europe with my class, and we were in JFK airport, and there was a piano. We had a 2-hour layover. The entire time I was just playing the piano, and my classmates were so annoyed because I kept playing the Pirates theme over and over again because it kept getting the most attention, and I was like, I love this.
Yeah, funny. Before me and my girlfriend were dating, I was really scared to ask her out, right? But actually, this is gonna sound so stupid, but the reason I was like, God, I'll just do it, whatever, is because she played the she started learning Pirates of the Caribbean on piano, and I'm like, it's a sign. I have to do it now. God, fine, you know?
Pirates is just that timeless, man.
Yeah.
It's that kind of movie where, with again, like we were talking about the score that's not right now. Hans Zimmer is iconic. Look at Hans Zimmer, like all time scores. I would put Pirates at his number one.
Yeah.
I would put Pirates at his number one.
Yeah.
I don't care if that's a hot take. I'm a Dune fan. I'm an Interstellar fan. Pirates of the Caribbean is my number one for him. I don't care if anyone's gonna hate me for that.
I'm trying to like remember what other things he's done. He's done
so many.
Yeah, I would. Oh yeah, I'd say this Kung Fu Panda, Prince of Egypt. Yeah, I would say this is his
Pirates
best.
is number one for me, man. And I know he's a multi-award winning. He's done, I think, even the Tenet film.
Tenet, Inception.
Yeah, everything like that. This is number one for me.
Oh yeah, like by far. Now that I'm looking at
so
all of them.
I can't like. You could say Pirates. There's only three scores that I can just hum at all time. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and then Pirates.
Yeah. And
2 are John Williams.
John Williams and Hans Zimmer are like the yin and yang of like.
I literally saw an interview with him today, being like, the one thing I had going for me instead of over John Williams. Actually, I didn't have anything going over me over John Williams. He's perfect. I'm horrible compared to him. And I was like, you're not Hans.
You those are 2 of the best composers ever.
And that's the thing. And that's something that's so underrated by a wide film audience in a lot of ways. It's like it's something I've talked about with people that really aren't super into film, or people that just don't really like. When I talk about wide film audience, I kind of reference my father and my mom in that sense.
Shout out parents.
Shout out parents. Shout out mom and dad. I love them. And it's just the idea that they're just kind of going to movies and they're like, oh, that won the Oscar, let me watch it, kind of thing. And they're like, oh, that new Mission Impossible movie looks good. So. And it's the same kind of scenes where I had a bunch of old coworkers where there's like, I watched Marvel movie. That's only what's the last? I can't even remember the last time I was in a theater. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like this idea that there is so much integrated into a score that has been lost in a lot of films. One thing that made Endgame really good is from Marvel and Infinity War was the scores that Thanos had a theme. When everyone else was coming through the portals, they had a theme. And you've lost that now.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
Say it.
Leitmotif.
Yay! Yeah, it's that idea where you have those integrated in films. Like movies that are great nowadays, like look at Oppenheimer, like look at Poor Things, look at these films that like kind of wiggle their way into your brain, and better than any one of them is Pirates.
Yeah.
Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I hope listening you could kind of understand how personal these films are to both of us. I this is gonna sound so cheesy, but I don't think I'd be the person I am without Pirates of the Caribbean. I've actually learned a lot about what it means to be alive and a human. You know,
I can actually agree. I remember playing the playground. Like Pirates is one of those movies that I was so incorporated with as a child. It's such an integral part to my childhood.
Yeah,
and we have to talk about a film that I really, really genuinely watched as a 6-year-old here. And this is one of the first ones where I watched this as I was 6 years old and I was putting this in the VCR player, rewinding it, putting it in the VCR player. My sister would put it on for me when I was crying. It's that kind of movie where I love Pirates. Yeah. And it's in my top 10, top 20, top 15 movies.
Yeah, this is definitely a top 10 for me. This was on my top 4 for Letterboxd for the longest time.
Oh, I changed my top 4 on Letterboxd because I have the Patreon, I like seeing the different things right now. Right now, it's Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed, which we've talked about before on this podcast.
Mine has been almost famous for about a year and a half.
Really, yeah. I change mine about every now and then. It's been Everything Ever All at Once. It's been Grand Budapest Hotel. It's been Cleo from 5 to 7. I've changed it quite a bit.
Yeah. I think my favorite. I love it. We're halfway done and we haven't even talked about the plot. That's
no.
That's just so. How good
we should talk about the plot. Yeah, we should.
I think my favorite aspect of the plot is the character growth of William Turner, because I think William and Elizabeth are the main characters, and I think the thing that every movie after this fails is they put Jack as the lead, whereas Jack is always a supporting character. He cannot carry his own movie, especially when he becomes more of a parody of himself as the films continue. Yeah. Right. However, I to be super dramatic. Jack Sparrow being the lead is like Mater from Cars being the lead. And look at Cars 2. Anyway, so I think my favorite thing about Will is how he progresses more and more into the mindset of a pirate as the film continues. He starts to question it when he's like, "Oh, I'm not obsessed with," or Jack calls him out, and he's like, "You're a pirate," and then he's like, "I'm not a pirate. I'm not obsessed with treasure." And then Jack says, "Not all treasure is silver and gold made." And then from there, my favorite. I'm all over the place. My favorite part is the "you cheated" rhymes from the beginning to the end. Will accuses Jack of cheating in their sword fight when he pulls the gun. And then at the end, when Will is fighting the bomb guy, he turns him into a skeleton, puts a bomb in his chest, and then shoves him into the shadow. And then the bomb guy goes, "You cheated," you know? Will is now completely a pirate, in the process of a pirate, and it finalizes at the end when Elizabeth is like, he's not a blacksmith, he's a pirate. And then the scar comes out. I start crying.
No. So that's again so the plot of the film is it kind of feels like it goes. It starts off very simple, where it's Elizabeth Swann gets captured by pirates. Will needs to go save the pirates, and then Jack Sparrow is that mentor in a lot of ways, being like, "This is what we need to do." And that first scene where they capture that one boat.
The Interceptor.
No. Before the Interceptor.
Oh.
Then they capture a boat that's being like, no, it's not the Interceptor.
The Interceptor is the fast one.
It's the fast one. So they capture a boat, being like, we're gonna take this boat from you. They're like, it's gonna take 100 men to start this boat, and they bring the Interceptor over, and they take that one instead.
It's so cool.
It's that good. For that reason, it's like, so then they keep going on where they're trying to chase Barbossa to save Elizabeth Swann, and then to have Jack's vengeance against Barbossa, and then there's this mystical element that the men of the Black Pearl cannot die because they still Aztec gold, and it's this kind of now cat and mouse chase that goes on for largely the end of the second act into the third act of the film, of where Barbossa gives over Elizabeth Turner, and then they need Will Turner's blood, and then they need then Jack comes back to save them, and then the British Navy comes back. It's this back and forth tail chase until it finally culminates in the British Navy essentially losing towards the pirates, and then Jack Sparrow, William Turner, and then Elizabeth Swann all are culminated at the place where they stole the Aztec gold, and they end up like turning the Aztec gold back. Barbossa dies. End of the story.
I feel cold.
And it's just like that end of the thing, and that's what the film is. That's the plot. That for anyone that we've not talked about the plot before, but there's so many integrated parts into that, and so again, there's so much to talk about in between that, where you talk about we talk about the score, or you talk about the character development of Will, and that's where you say that Jack isn't the main character, because Jack doesn't really change.
No.
And that he doesn't need to change, because his character is in a lot of ways a mentor towards Will, and he's a comedy relief, but he's also the most no one will deny that he's the most entertaining character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a very flat character.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite Jack moment is at the end in the cave. Well, first he tells Will his plan without saying anything. He palms the Aztec gold through his monologue with Barbossa. He picks up a hand of gold so that he's able to fight Barbossa. He will turn into a skeleton with Barbossa to even the playing field. And I have this quote that I love so much. I don't know why. It's just like, I think it's so funny. He says, "Me, I'm dishonest. And a dishonest man you can always trust to be dishonest. Honestly, it's the honest ones you gotta watch out for, because you can never predict when they're going to do something incredibly stupid. And then they fight. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good."
And the funny thing is, the honest man is Will.
Yeah.
Because he's, throughout the film, he says, "Don't do anything stupid." Mm-hmm. That the entire time he keeps saying, "Don't do anything stupid" towards Will.
Like when he gives Barbossa his name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was stupid.
Yeah.
It's just that entire thing, and one thing again we talked about earlier is the choreography and stunts. So one thing that the Oscars will never do, and I'm against it. I mean, me and Andy talked about this when we were watching the Oscars with my other friend Joey. It's this idea that they'll never incorporate an Oscar for best stunts or choreography because it'll incentivize better or crazier stunts and choreography. Which
dangerous stuff.
And I think that's somewhat of an excuse, but also it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's that idea that, like, I'm like, damn, I think these people need to be recognized. Mm-hmm. And last Oscars, they actually did recognize it in a big whole thing from the stunts of the year, which I think is a good middle ground. If they do that every year, I think that'll be something where they can, like, recognize every single stuntman and choreographer that is doing these things that make these films so much better.
Do you think they recognized it because of the David Holmes documentary?
I don't know, maybe.
David Holmes is the Harry Potter documentary that came out recently.
Yeah, and I think in some ways it was an advertisement for the new Fall Guy movie coming out May 3rd.
Oh,
because it was Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt that were the ones advertising it. But what's that point? And the thing though about it is that, like, when you see Jack Sparrow and William Turner fighting, they were choreographed for months prior to that of sword fighting and knowing how to actually fight swords by expert swordsmen choreographers to then do it, and then the stunts that needed to be performed were done by Johnny Depp and what's his name, Orlando Bloom lookalikes that are doing those crazy stunts that they can't do. And then you go into fighting on ships, or fighting with Barbossa, or fighting in the caves, or doing or ship fights, or anything like that, or anything that can involve those people getting hurt, those actors getting hurt. Stuntmen are doing it that make it look believable.
Absolutely.
And, like, that's where you see, instead of using CGI, which again the CGI in this film is great, they use this idea of, like, there are real people fighting, and they're using actual swordplay, and that's why they're so entertaining and so good. And it's real. It's like that swordsmanship is a real kind of swordsmanship that is being done. And I think that's why it's so well done.
This movie is alive, I like to say, in the sense of, like, it uses CG as a tool and not a crutch.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a Jumpcut episode unless we made fun of Marvel for a little bit. Marvel has 100% CG everything. CG costumes, CG backdrops, CG everything. It's not grounded, and it feels artificial because it is. Whereas this uses CG as a tool, instead of a crutch.
Images aren't the creators that are doing this are in love with it. And that's why you see Davy Jones and you see these skeletons in this film, and they are so real because not only do they give these artists, I'm not going to say like workers, these artists, time to do it, they also gave them the idea of being like, go ahead and do what you want. Be an artist.
Yeah.
There's no limit on your creation here. And that's why I think a lot of Star Wars prequels fail.
Yeah.
Is because George Lucas had a specific vision and limited creative vision. And then I think the reason that current Marvel is failing is because of time. They're not giving these artists time to perfect their art. And you see something like this, where I think the time between the first one and the next one is 4 years or 3 years, something like crazy.
Something crazy, yeah.
And that means these artists were like, oh, right, we get to make Davy Jones look as crazy as we want.
Yeah.
And the Davy Jones mic drop, I know we're talking mostly about the first film, but the Davy Jones mic drop in the second film is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you see Davy Jones and you're like,
that's real.
That ain't, like, that, no way that's not a real person.
Yeah.
Like it's like that has to be fake. And it's just like, and you're like, that has to be real. That there's no way that's like not like actual things, but you see the behind the scenes and it's just dots on a dude's face.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing. It's like they use these as such a tool and artist expression, and especially in this first one. I'm not gonna lie, out of any early 2000s film, I think this is the best example of CG looking great.
Absolutely.
This came out the same years as the Star Wars prequels with immensely lower budget, not immensely, but lower budget, and it looks better by miles.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema to come out of the early 2000s is the scene of Barbossa and Jack jumping in between moonlight and turning from skeleton to flesh and bones. That is one of the best looking shots.
And it's also crazy
ever.
You'll get a wide shot, and like if you pause it, zoom in, you can see where moonlight and shadow are hitting them, where it's skeleton and what's not. And like that is a wide shot with immense detail that does not need to be done. But they're like
enhance
literally though, they do that, and it's like I'm like, that's insane. The level of detail and care for these movies is unreal.
Yeah.
And that's so the reason we talk about movies that we love is because we know the people around them love them. That's one thing. We talk about How to Train Your Dragon. We know that everyone there, the animators, loved it. We talk about Secret Life of Walter Mitty. We know that everyone, including Ben Stiller, loved it. We talk about Goonies. They loved it. Every Scooby-Doo, we tell the actors love it. Everything we talk about is in these podcasts. What the reason that these movies are universally loved or mostly loved is because you can tell that not only actors but choreographers, but the composer, but the director, the gaffers, the sound team, the sound mixers behind the scenes, the Foley artists, you can tell so deep down as an audience member that they're having fun and you're having fun because of it. Yeah. And that's something that I love about movies. Like, the reason I see so many movies that I love, and I don't really have any guilty pleasure in movies because I think that every movie I like is made by people that liked making that movie. And sure, you can talk about like a Marvel movie or a movie that is I watched Ordinary Angels, which is like a very Christian movie that I watched randomly. And no offense, but it's this idea that you can tell I could tell this was a paycheck for most people.
Yeah.
And Marvel, a lot of people, the reason they get into Marvel, I've seen so many actors laugh about it, is because that paycheck be nice, and it's like, I don't want that to be the reason that you're doing what you love. And I understand that for some people, being Thor for Chris Hemsworth is his love, and he loves it. And you can tell that he's the best part of those movies.
Yeah.
And then everything else fails because I don't think the director, the writer,
shout out Taika Waititi.
You genuinely can tell that Taika Waititi did not have a good time with Thor: Love and Thunder because he felt so corporatized.
Yeah.
And it's that idea. I don't know. So yeah, long story short, I love movies and love making movies, and that's what you can see in Pirates.
Yeah, I got to visit the set of Port Royal.
Really?
A few summers ago. Yeah,
Where is it?
It was in L.A. I was doing a few summer classes for film at UCLA, and we had a field trip where we went to a bunch of backlots, and we went to a bunch of Western backlots, and one of them was the fully intact Port Royal. And it was so sick. And
I didn't know that it was in LA. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of these films are filmed in Australia.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, mostly in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
All the water stuff, was all filmed in Australia. Because they can't film in the Caribbean. It just
they don't like it when you do that.
Yeah, they don't like when you do that. And so it's off the coast of Australia is where all these films. Because I remember Johnny Depp getting in trouble for his 2 dogs that he took to Australia. Yeah.
Actually, my friend Brian, who's in Kjack, shout out Brian. He for my birthday, he gave me a gift, and he's like, "Hey, I have a gift for you. Come over to my apartment." So I go over to his apartment, and he holds up an old canvas T-shirt, and I'm like, "Well, that's actually kind of sick." And he's like, "Yeah, this was a costume used on Curse of the Black Pearl." So I have one of the costume pieces from that now. Shout out Brian. That's one of the coolest.
That's actually super sick.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Funny enough, I have another. My only film memorabilia I have from a set is and it's funny enough because I've never even seen the movie. It's from another Johnny Depp movie called Edward Scissorhands. I have an original script from that set.
What?
Yeah, I kind of accidentally stole it from my friend Kieran, and I've had it since. Shout out Kieran. He obviously. I've not talked to Kieran in years, but
you got the goods and left over.
Yeah, I did.
Like a real pirate.
I really did. It's just kind of funny, and that's the only film memorabilia I have. That's a canvas T-shirt from this film. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how he got it. I think his uncle worked on it or something.
That's crazy. Maybe that's insane. One thing I think that I mean, me and you can attest to this is something I like doing is taking some memorabilia from a set you're on.
Allegedly.
My producer Sarah from last year, I didn't take much from Egregious Sins. I didn't. I took a lot of stuff, and I get it. It's that kind of thing where you want to be memorable, and it's when we did theater. It's like that idea of you want to keep that costume you're in.
Oh, absolutely. I did theater for 13 years, and I kept way more than I was supposed
You're
to.
Allowed to keep,
Allegedly, of course. God.
Yeah. I'm like, this stuff's gonna get tossed anyway or reused. Let me keep it. But again, that's something we should talk about. The costumes of these films. Oh my God, Jack
they're
Sparrow.
perfect,
Jack
and
Sparrow,
they're not CG.
None of them are. Jack Sparrow is so iconic, and he looks that way, and that's why he's been literally mimicked. When you think of pirate costumes, if you look at pirate costumes, 90% of them are going to be Jack, even if they're not licensed.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious, by the way, because I'm doing I'm going to be doing a pirate theme night at my work soon, and
nice.
I look at pirate costumes, every single one every single one is Jack.
Yeah. Dude, let me know when that is. I want to go and say what up.
I'll let you know. And it's just kind of funny to me. It's like every single one is just Jack Sparrow. And it's like, I get it, because he has such a cool costume. And then you look at Elizabeth Swann, like the corset is integral to her character at the beginning.
Yeah.
Literally, like completely integral. And you look at all of the British Navy being like copies of one another. And that's when you look at all the pirates being so uniquely different of each other. Because then you have I can't remember the guy with the eye, the eye.
Yeah, Pintle and Ragetti.
Yeah, they're so unique in their own right because of their costumes and makeup. Then you look at Barbossa. He is so iconic for his costumes and makeup.
Little monkey man.
Yeah, literally. The monkey's also really famous too. Every person has such a unique. I think that's something that's so cool too. Is that the way that they distinguish the British Navy and the pirates is in the costumes. Mm-hmm. It's not just the ships. It's like the funny thing is too. The Black Pearl is so mangled and disheveled, but it's just as quick and actually faster and more impressive than the Interceptor, which is so regal, it's built and rigid, which is the same way that the pirates are better fighters, better navigators, all that stuff than the British Navy. But the pirates are so disheveled, unorganized, and the British Navy are so like straight up, and it's just so funny that like they just tell that so. I mean, it's obvious when you look at them, and the reason it's obvious when you look at them is because the British Navy are so done well, and then the pirates are also so done well in their costumes and makeup.
Yeah, everyone cared so much about this, and I think that's what really speaks. I love how just looking at Elizabeth specifically, she has maybe 10, 15 costumes the entire film, and each and every one of them builds her character and says where she's at, like, allegiance-wise. Like, she's, you know, like she's wearing a corset, and then, if you want to look into the symbolism of, like, the pressures of society, blah, blah, blah. And then she sheds the corset, and then she turns in, has this, like, cloth sort of, like, poet's shirt, and turns into a pirate, and then when she's back on the Interceptor, she's wearing a red coat for, and then goes back to the,
It's like that idea. Like, costumes are so integral, and, like, they all look so well done, so beautiful, so hand-sewn. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
Like in the makeup goes under appreciated as well.
Yeah,
you go first.
Sorry, have you heard the thing about Jack's chin? Have you heard that?
No, I've never heard of it.
Jack has like a little scab on his chin in the first movie, and every single movie it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the director came out and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's scurvy." We don't talk about it, but
that's insane.
Yeah, and it's just that attention to detail, and the makeup is
so. Yeah, as someone, my previous my student film I made was very heavy into makeup. We had to do a lot of makeup for our characters. And like not extreme makeup, but just detailed makeup onto characters that distinguish them from each other.
Yeah.
And like that's something that goes so underappreciated because like these people are going to be sitting in these chairs for hours and getting this makeup done, and it looks so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, just makeup doesn't need to be the what is it called? Like the dotting every single thing of Drax onto his body. And, like makeup could be as simple as making Jack's like the scurvy, making Jack look as disheveled, making Barbossa look grimy, making Elizabeth Swann look beautiful. It's like all these things, they're so well done.
All of their teeth?
Their teeth.
Just the attention to their teeth.
Yeah, the yellow
the
teeth.
bags under their eyes.
Yeah, the yellow teeth versus the polished white teeth of the British Navy. I talk about the differences because I know the British Navy play a much bigger role in the second and third film. Obviously, that iconic scene of the ship being blown up as he's walking down.
It's kind of hard to talk about like what makes this movie good without being like, I don't know, all of it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like again, because the thing is, this is a culmination of everything in the film. I mean, we talk about so many films. I mean, I always like referencing our past episodes because there are different aspects that we talk about. So when we talked about like our very first episode, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, it's about that journey in that idea that we went on that whole film over the plot, and then we talked about How to Train Your Dragon. We talked heavily about the music. We talked heavily about the animation, and we talked about the fantasy building elements of that film. And then we talk about like Goonies, where we talk about mostly about the characters, or we talk about Scooby Doo, where we talk about the idea of the suspension of disbelief of everyone. And we do these specific details where we integrate something about it. And ultimately, every film, every podcast episode, we've talked about how much we love the film in general. But the thing is that the reason that we love Pirates is it's everything about it feels so detail oriented and perfect, and that's one thing that like is still persisted throughout the next two, and that's why 4 and 5 really fall off is because I mean, I know the next two aren't as good, but for a lot of people, but the 4 and 5 are reason that they're not good is because they lose that detail oriented and it became a product.
Yeah.
It became like, oh, these movies make a lot of money, and let's make more of them. Versus like 1, 2, and 3 feel like a love letter, not a love letter, but like a careful attempt to make an amazing movie.
Yeah. So we have 10 minutes left, and I'm gonna end off with a question.
Yeah.
For both of us, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
There's rumors about a pirate reboot coming. I don't know if you've heard of it. There's a pirate reboot. I don't know what reboot means in the sense of like, is it just gonna tell the same story, or is it gonna just like recast everything, or like, I don't know what that means. But if you were in charge of the first pirate for the Pirates reboot, what aspects of Curse of the Black Pearl would you like non-negotiable? These aspects have to be in it because that's what made it perfect in the first place.
So for me, like I hate the idea of reboots done poorly.
Yes.
I think that a reboot cannot be done well, and it's been very, very few films that have had a reboot that have gone well.
Yeah.
I can't even think of one on top of my mind.
DuckTales.
Okay.
That's the only one.
Exactly. Oh, Jungle Book. I guess I can think of Jungle Book. That's also a difference of storytelling. You go from animated to live action. But beside the point. I love the idea of legacy sequels, or the idea of sequels set much later in time, but also still reminiscing the second. And the thing is that this would have a really difficult time doing that. You have to, in a lot of ways, lose the idea of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to me in the saddest way possible.
It's going to be hard for Disney.
It'd be impossible for Disney, because the reason that it feels like you need to lose Jack is, even though he is the face easily of the franchise, I think creating him as like a legacy person, like he is someone like much years later, he's been dead for years on end now. He is like, he becomes the mystery. He did something with his last life, like he like his last ditch effort, and that's where he did it. He becomes this idea of a legacy. That's where I would start.
Sure. I also would say, don't have Will and Elizabeth's kid be the lead.
No.
I think then it will turn into like a Star Wars Chosen One.
Yeah.
You were destined to be a like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want, like, if you're gonna really reboot it, start fresh. You know.
Yeah, and I know there's always rumors about Margot Robbie being the lead, which is whatever, fine. She's a great actress, but I think that the biggest thing about this is you need to like set it in its own right, but also keep the elements of what made Black Pearl amazing. You need to have it set in reality with fantasy elements, not set in fantasy with reality elements.
Yeah.
Because that's where Dead Man Tell No Tales fails completely. Like, Salazar is immediately this ghost pirate guy that all of a sudden you're like, this is the villain immediately? Like, what the heck? Like, Davy Jones has a mic drop moment where he's mystical, but it's like he's referenced in the first one, then he becomes like this idea, like, what happened to, like, they say, like, his dad went into, like, Davy Jones' lair or whatever. Locker, you know. And beside the point. Because I think that you need to have that idea of reminiscing and that legacy sequel idea, but you don't need to have Jack, Will, or Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And I want it to be like a brand new character. I mean, they've done brand new characters before, but then they end up being related to Barbossa, or they end up being related to someone else, and it's like, that's really reason that 4 doesn't work is because it's too long and it doesn't reference enough of the first 3. The reason that 5 doesn't work is it's too long and it references too much of the first 3.
Yeah.
You need to find that balance of finding what made the first 3 really good, especially Curse of the Black Pearl, and creating this sort of idea of Blade Runner 2049, or I'm trying to think of other legacy sequels that have done really well.
Dune was a good reboot.
Yeah, honestly, it's like that idea that you need to create like homages, but not not complete reboots.
Yeah, I think when it comes to fantasy, I think what I would do is keep all of the fantasy aspects that are already pre-established in Pirates lore, like Davy Jones, the Flying Dutchman. those are real life pirate lore things that the real pirates actually talked about. You know,
Yes.
The Flying Dutchman was a ship pirated by Cedric Vanderdecken. And up the Cape of Good Hope on I got really into pirates in case you can't
I can tell.
Davy Jones was a metaphor for Satan and the people who were damned to the bottom of the ocean. So those are real life pirate lores, and the reason that the skeletons, because cursed treasure is a very real thing in pirate lore, the reason all of those feel so real, whereas the ghost pirate in Dead Man Tell Salazar, yeah. I hate him. Anyway, the reason
he's a great score though, I can't deny that.
Yeah, it's true. Or leitmotif. The reason that doesn't fit is because it didn't feel natural, whereas the other ones were natural. You know.
Absolutely, I think that because I think that they are without a doubt never gonna like let this franchise die. Sadly, in some ways. In some ways, that can be a good thing if it's done properly.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a lot of things you can explore with pirates.
100%. Just
And
do it right.
Just do it correctly, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but I want to see them do it.
Shout out Disney. I know you listen to this.
I know Disney.
DM one of us.
DM one of us.
I'll write the screenplay.
Yeah,
whatever.
Disney, I know you watch these.
I know you watch these
What's
and you take
Bob
all of our
Iger?
criticism to heart.
That's the head of Disney.
Yeah,
Bob
yeah.
Iger. Hey, Bob.
Big Buddy Bob,
Yeah,
I
how's
would
it going?
love to hang out with you. I will write the script for you.
I know, and I don't know. I love pirates, and I mean, like it's the kind of thing where I told my girlfriend Jordan about this with Star Wars in the sense that even the worst Star Wars movie I can enjoy,
Sure,
some level. And there's a lot of truth with pirates as well. It's like as much as I don't like Dead Man Tell No Tales, and as much as I really really don't like the fourth one,
the mermaid one.
Yeah, I can still find love in it, and like I can still see like my childhood in that some sense. As where nostalgia plays a big factor,
you can still slip back into the world and feel at home.
And so that's something I think that they need to do it correctly. And I don't care if it's Margot Robbie at the helm. I think she's a great actress. I really do. I don't think she's being overused, sure, but I think that it'd be a good movie. Just don't use Tom Holland. Like, please don't.
No, what do you mean? I want Chris Pratt to voice an animated character.
Oh no,
maybe he could
Garfield. He could be Garfield.
Anyway,
no, but anyway.
Anything else you wanna say before we head out? Have a good one, you guys. We'll see you next week.